Hello and welcome to my humble little review of Catan, or Helpers of Catan, which is a small, officially released scenario or add-on, if you will, to the board game Catan. And I wanted to review this today because we have used this in our own personal expansion for Catan World Wonders called World Wonders Revisited. And we incorporated the helpers because we enjoy it so much and we highly recommend it. So just wanted to take you guys through quickly today on how to use this when you play Catan. It can be incorporated into any Catan scenario for any expansion. Very versatile, and you do not need to know much about Catan besides the base game to be able to play this. And it is super fun. And everyone we've played with have enjoyed this. Even long-time, highly experienced Catan players or newbies. They all love this, and it's all very easy to understand and very easy to pick up and fun for everyone involved. So basically what you have a selection of 10 different type of helpers, which you see one of in front of you right now. And they are in possession of the player, so each player has one helper at any point in time. You can never have a situation where you don't have a helper, and you can never have more than one helper. And each player is given a helper to begin with. See that it says, this is Nasir here, it says A1 in the top. That means whoever places his second settlement first gets this. And then whoever places the second settlement number 2 gets A2, and then A3, A4, and so forth, up to A6. This is for 6-player games. For those of you that combine multiple Catan for more than 6 players, you're just going to have to use the 4 remaining ones and distribute those as you see fit. Then on your turn, you can use your helper once. So you do what's said on the helper card. You either flip it over and then you can use it a second time on your next turn, or instead of flipping it over, you can trade it out and exchange it for any of the other helpers in the bank or in the stock. If you flip it over, you can use it a second time, and when you use it for the second time, you see it's then on the red side, then you have to turn it in and get a new one from the stock. So you can use it once or twice, but not on the same turn, but during the course of 2 turns then. There are a few helpers you can use on opponent's turns. I think 2 helpers in particular, and those work a little bit differently, but it's the same concept. So I'm going to go ahead and go through the 10 helpers, explain what they do, and then give my take on whether they're good or bad, or fantastic or useless, and a few tips and tricks on how to use them well. So Nasir is forced trade, which means that you can once on your turn demand a resource card from up to 2 players, and those cards, if you choose 2, needs to be the same resource, and for each resource that you end up exchanging, then you need to give your opponent a resource back. So this is actually a very useful helper. It's one of the better ones, I would say. A couple of reasons for that. Of course, it's forced trade, so your opponent can't say no. And if you keep track of what resources your opponents are getting, then you can easily get resources that you need on your turn. We're a little bit unsure on how to interpret up to 2 players, if you have to announce the 2 players at the same time, or if you can announce 1 player and then see whether he has it and then decide whether you want to announce the second player. So we usually say that you have to announce both players at once if you choose to go for 2 players. Keep in mind that you cannot use this for or to demand commodities. If you play Citizen Knights, it's resources only, and you of course can't use it to demand fish or gold or anything else. It's just plain resources. This is a little bit better of a helper too, because you can always use it. If you want to get rid of this helper, if there's another helper in the stock that you rather want, you can always use this. And if you know a player doesn't have a resource, you can ask for that, and then of course he doesn't have it, but you're still using Nasir, and then you can trade him in regardless. Or, which I do a few times, is if I sit with a brick and I want to get rid of Nasir, I can just ask for brick, and if the player has a brick, then I can just exchange it for the brick I have, if I wanted the brick in the first place. So this is one of the helpers that you can exchange, even if you have no way of really using him to your benefit. So that's Nasir. So he is definitely one of the ones that are used more in our group. Okay, number 2 is William. William gives you the chance to do something called makeshift road building. So here you basically can, once on your turn, you can exchange either a lumber or a brick for anything else and build a road for that. So you can, build a road for a lumber and a grain, or for a brick and a sheep. So any one of the 2 resources you can exchange for anything else. So he is useful. Not one of the best ones for sure, but I use him, probably once or twice per game we play, but he's not one that you're going for to win the game towards the end for sure. So William is okay, but again, this is not one, for example, that you can use if you don't have the resources for it. So you can't just get rid of him if there's another helper in the stock that you rather want. So that's William. Number 3, by far the best helper, and the one that everyone wants, Marianne. Marianne basically gives you resource compensation, where if you don't get a resource on the production roll, and if the roll is not a 7, you can't use her on a 7 roll, then you can basically use her and take any resource from the bank. So you can pick any resource. It's essentially like having a gold field if you don't get any resources. Keep in mind that fish is not a resource. Gold, whether it's river gold or explorers and pirates gold, are not resources. So even if you get fish, you can still use her. And if the robber is on one of your spots and the robber prevents production, if that number is rolled and you still don't get a resource, you can also use Marianne. And of course, she can be used on any player's turn. So when any player rolls for production, you have the potential of using her. So you can essentially use her on the player's turn right before your turn, trade her in, and then when you get, or if you're on the second one, you would have to trade her in, and then when it becomes your turn again, you can use your helper and then get her right back. So you can sort of manipulate the timing of using her to be able to maximize her potential. So everyone wants her. She is never in stock when we play. The first person who has the chance to take her takes her. So by far the best one. Not broken, I would say, not overpowered, but close. Okay. 4 is Lewis, Lewis, I think it's pronounced. Move a road. Here, once on your turn, you can move an unconnected, so a road at the end of a stretch of roads, from one spot on the board to another. So you have to remove it from a legal spot and then move it to another legal spot, essentially. And this does not work for ships. Lewis only works for roads. And that is very useful early on, since you place one road next to each of your starting settlements. If you rather want one of the roads to go combined with another road, then you can use him on turn 1 or turn 2. So in that case, he's good, but I rarely ever use him. He's one of the weaker helpers, I would say. He has a very specific value, but in the long run, he's not used very much when we play. All right, helper number 5 is Shawn, and Protection from the 7 is the title of his ability. So when somebody rolls a 7, so that's any player, so he is the other helper that can be used on other players' turns, you can either prevent having to throw away half of your cards if you have more than 7, so he prevents you from doing that, or if you have 7 or less cards, then you can use him to get a resource of any type. So same as Marianne, but now for 7 only. So he has a double use, protection from the 7 and getting a resource, and you can use him on your opponent's turn. Another very good helper. Not as good as Marianne by far, but he is useful, and he's useful all game. Marianne is not useful late game because you have most of the numbers, so you rarely ever get a situation where you don't get a resource. But everybody always rolls 7. I mean, 7 is the number that rolls the most often, so he's useful all the time. So a good one. All right. Now the big bad wolf, Candemir. Development card choice. Here, Candemir gives you the chance to exchange one of the 3 resources used to buy a development card. So wool, grain, and ore. You can exchange one of those for one of anything else. So you can now start utilizing brick and lumber to buy development cards. And that's not all he does. Instead of giving you 1 card, he gives you 3, and then you get to pick one of the 3. So he is very, very useful. If you are going for a largest army, it's super easy to do, because when you pick 3 cards, chances are you'll get a knight. And you can use resources that you normally wouldn't be able to use if you are missing one of the 3 resources, for example. For development cards, he will give you the opportunity to use them. So a very, very good helper as well. One of the best one, top 3 I would say. All right, now we get to the 4 remaining helpers that are not placed into the player's possession when you start. Jean, special trade pricing. She gives you the chance to choose a resource on your turn, and then you can trade that resource 2 to 1 to the bank as many times as you want. So she basically gives you a 2 to 1 harbor on your turn. She is very useful, especially late game when you get a lot of resources. If you have resources that you don't use that much, she will then turn those into different resources. She is one of those helpers that you can use whenever you want, on any turn. You don't have to have any resources in your possession to use her, because all you really do is choose a resource that you have the potential, or you may trade 2 to 1 to the bank. So if you look at the wording there, she can be used without actually having to trade anything in. Okay. Helper number 8 is Lynn. Banish the robber. So once on your turn, and her you can use before you roll or after you roll. You can remove the robber from a land tile and move her to the desert. So you can't use her if she's on the desert, but you can use her if she's on any other tile. So you move her to the desert, and obviously then get her away from whatever land tile she's on, and you get a resource from the land tile that she was, or the robber was on. So you get a resource and you get to remove the robber. So very useful as well. We use her probably, not the most, but she's in the top 4 or 5. Definitely in the top half. Hilda, another very good helper. Alms for the poor. She makes you able to look at the hand of an opponent that has more victory points than you, and you can choose a resource at will from the hand and take it into your possession. Keep in mind that you cannot take commodities if you place it as a knight's only resources, but you still get to look at their hand, so you get to familiarize yourself with what commodities the player has. So she's good, not if you're in the lead. Keep in mind that you can get stuck with some of these helpers. Hilda is one of them. If you have the most amount of victory points, then yeah, you're never going to get rid of her. So you might need to trick your opponent sometimes to getting more victory points than you for a brief period, and then use her just to get rid of her. But yeah, I've been in situations where I've had her for the last half of the game. But I mean, you're in the lead, so it's not that big of a deal. You want to be in the lead, right? All right, last helper is unfortunately the most useless one of the bunch. Vincent, at least we have not found much use of him. Swords to Plowshares, where you once on your turn, you can discard a knight card. It can be played or unplayed. I have no idea why you want to discard an unplayed knight. I mean, if you have a knight in possession, why won't you just play it and then use Vincent to get rid of it? When you do that, you can either build a settlement for 1 lumber and 1 brick, so basically building a settlement for a road, or you can upgrade a settlement to a city for 2 ore and 1 grain. So you save 2 resources when buying a settlement or a city. We hardly ever use Vincent. I maybe see him being used once during a game on average. So, you know, he is good late game if you have an excess amount of knight cards and there's no way you can get largest army and you want to get rid of them and then use Vincent. He might be useful, but unfortunately he's one of those that never gets picked. Okay, so that's it. There's nothing else to say about helpers. They are very, very useful and super fun. I would probably give this expansion, if you can call it an expansion of this scenario, 9 out of 10. There are a few helpers that are more useless than others, so for that I'm not going to give it a perfect score, but close. So if you haven't seen this before, pop it in the search bar at Amazon. I think you can get this for like probably $10. It's not even less, $5 to $10, something like that. I think I picked it up for $8 or $9 at Amazon, or I can't remember. It's been a while, but we play it every single time. So highly recommended. If you have any questions about this, let me know. One thing I want to say is that the cardstock that they printed this on is super durable. It's thick, hard cardboard. There's no way anybody's going to fold these, and it looks excellent, very clear print and ink on it. So the quality of these helpers is excellent, top notch. All right, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you guys find this expansion fun if you try it out. Have a good day. Bye-bye.